You've tuned in to the Bellingham Podcast for the week of May 23rd, 2021. This is episode 190. From that city by the Salish Sea, I'm AJ Barsay.
And I'm Dan. Coming to wait a minute. I'm not Dan. I'm Chris. I remember this. I used to do this back in the day. What was my intro? Oh, yeah. And straight out of 92.26, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, guess what? I'm back from the clandestine operations, the black ops, the classified, the out of town, the unmentionable location, etc., etc. AJ and I are going to go visit a different kind of Walden pond next on the Bellingham Podcast.
That is right. Do not adjust your dials. That silky baritone voice is back. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm having sympathy for our listeners that just got blasted in their speakers from your loud, punctual alto voice. Sure. I'm doing fine. It's not quite silky this morning. I've got a little bit of the froggies in my throat, and I might clear off mic, but I'm back. I'm well rested. We'll explain later. AJ, it's great to see you in person again.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's nice to have my podcast partner in crime back. I mean, you know, I tried to keep everything afloat for those listeners trying to figure out why are these guys so jovial. So a couple of the episodes were already in the can. Chris has been gone for 6 weeks.
6 weeks, and one extra just as I acclimated to stuff.
I plan for buffers. I'm a professional podcaster, Chris.
Hashtag bufferman. So first, before I launch into what went on, I want to give a big thanks from the bottom of my heart, that subcockle area of all the atrium and ventricles within me, to UK Dan and US Dan, who were kind enough to hang with my buddy, my partner in crime, for some episodes and be a amazingly worthy guest host, respectively, for the shows while I was absent. And I do appreciate it. Anytime, Dan and Dan, that y'all have a topic that you want to discuss, ping AJ, and if you can find me on the internet, ping me too. You wanted to guest host for a while, the door is always open. I give you that black card to swipe as far as the Bellingham Podcast host access. So anyway, thank you so much for helping out, and great to have you in the family. So
Chris, you've been away obviously doing clandestine missions for some foreign agency of minimalism, right?
Yes.
That's why you were gone, right?
No, not exactly. So here's a pro tip, kiddies. Whenever you go on vacation, don't post pictures of your vacation while it's happening on Facebook or the gram. You talk about your vacation after you've had it, because there are people who are listening that if they realize that you're not at home, bad things could happen to your things that might be in your house. Anyway, my beautiful wife and I had an opportunity to take a 6-week vacation.
Sabbatical.
That's a way of describing it. And some kids call it that. We initially were going to go to overseas, over in Italia, in Europe, but unfortunately COVID hit and our plans had to get readjusted. So with the border to Canada being limited during this time, we thought, where else could we go? Well, here in the Northwest in Washington State, we have 2 major interstates, I-5, which we talk about, and we're going to talk about in the upcoming episodes because I got something up my sleeve. But we also have Interstate 90, and Interstate 90, I believe, if memory still serves me correctly, goes from Washington State all the way to the East Coast to New York. I think it stretches the width, the lateral width, the waistline, if you will, of the United States of America. My wife and I drove I-90, Interstate 90, to Montana, and we spent 6 weeks in Big Sky Country, and we stayed in 6 beautiful cities, Airbnb'd 1 week at a time. We went to Lolo, and in case you don't know hello Lolo.
Give me the down low on Lolo.
Okay, Lolo is a town outside of Missoula, in which if you look at the movie from the 90s, I believe, A River Runs Through It.
Oh, yeah.
One might, and yes, it stars Brad Pitt. Yay! Anyway, I watched it anyway. Lolo's a pretty rugged town back in the day, but it's kind of a small community, and that was cool. We visited some other small towns around the area. 1 week in Lolo, 1 week in Missoula. Got to check out the University of Montana and that college town, which was great. 1 week in South Helena, 1 week in North Helena, the capital of Montana. Stayed in 2 awesome Airbnbs. And then we went to Billings, which is a lovely town. And then the final week of our vacation, Bozeman. And boys and girls, if you are like me and you like modern development, I'm not talking about like Blade Runner, Tokyo, LA 2015, whatever what it was.
This Techtopia.
Yeah, this Techtopia. But there's just so much open development and so much newness going on in Bozeman. It's really, some have talked about the great migration occurring from our southwest area because it's too darn hot and too darn expensive. I think they may be going there. There is a lot of new homes, wonderful swaths of land that's in the housing development. So beautiful. We took a day trip to Yellowstone National Park.
I see the hat on your head.
I have a hat on. For our listeners who can't see, I'm wearing a trucker hat from Yellowstone National Park.
And I believe it has a moose on the side.
Because, of course, because I'm a fan of Bullwinkle. It was just a wonderful trip. And in 6 weeks, Ferris Bueller describing Cameron's father's Ferrari, it is so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend it. Dear listeners, if you have the means to be able to take 6 weeks off of work for non-medical reasons.
Valid.
I highly recommend it. If you get the opportunity, go for it. I didn't know just how badly I needed to take time away from work after this year of doing my tech stuff until about week 1. And boy, driving to another time zone, it was 1 hour difference. My wife and I got to relax, and we didn't wake up with an alarm. We didn't have to. We didn't have a lot of things on the schedule other than checking out of the Airbnb on time and going to the next city.
Before this, what was the longest vacation you and your wife have taken together?
I think we had maybe, I got to think 10 days where we took our daughter to college for her first year. We took a week for our honeymoon. I think we had some family vacations. It may have been a week or
so mostly short time. Yeah. And not to the degree of a mental palate cleanse like this was designed to be. So
yeah,
just as a primer, like you're very much a nose to the grindstone. Like,
oh, AJ, don't sugarcoat it. I'm a workaholic.
Yeah,
I don't do well taking vacations because my mind is my calling is a technologist and my career is in technology. As Kip says, I love technology always and forever. And to take a vacation, we learned, my wife and I, that we approach vacations 2 different ways. Huh. And my wife loves doing things and going about and seeing, she's a hiker, if you couldn't tell by now. Check earlier episodes for the Urban Hikers Grand Tour. She really, there's a whole lot of hiking to be had in Big Sky Country and a whole lot of wilderness and a whole lot of forest service roads that are not paved with bike lanes and other things like that. Yeah, we went on them.
No, there's no gentrification out in the national forest.
No. So I went on a number of hikes with her, not all of them, because I got the agency to respectfully decline. No, honey, you go on this one and enjoy your time. And so I'm a fan of vacation where I just let my mind rest. If I don't do anything and I sit in a comfy chair all day, that's great. My interpretation of vacation is so much different, and I learned so many things about myself. Not having an alarm clock, not checking work email, not having the day routine. We have a routine of things we do that got interrupted for 6 weeks, and I really was able to hit game reset and emerge with a much different perspective on things, and I was really blessed for that.
Cool, dude.
Yeah, but one thing that we didn't have in Montana that I sorely lamented was 102.3 FM KMRE on the radio as we were driving around.
Or you might have tapped into us on camry.org. So you do remember all the workflow of our show. Good.
It's coming back to me now. Yes. They're streaming all over at kmre.org.
So let's dive into, because there's no notes on this show, folks.
Yeah, but still drink anyways.
So drink. But the primer for this was 6 weeks ago. I told Chris I wanted one thing. I wanted a contemporary version of Walden's Pond. Now, if you have not read Walden's Pond in many, many years, I'm in the same boat. But the nuance of this that I want to kind of hit on for Chris is basically if you had to go into the wilderness or you got to check out and experience, what would you take? What would you take back? And what would be gained from that basically game reset of society and the flow of it? Granted, this was a pandemic year. This was the perfect test. So, Chris, report for me back from Walden's Pond.
Reporting live here at Walden's Pond in the North Fork of the whole. No, anyway, I set out as we pulled out of 9226 for parts unknown. By the way, a fun fact: every time my wife and I went to a new city or went on our trip, we played Willie Nelson's On the Road Again.
Nice.
It's a cool thing.
Nice.
I kind of liked it. I just brought my phone device, which was an iPhone SE, and an iPad to use just for any kind of content or a web browser and such. But I brought a couple other tools, or I had another couple tools in my arsenal. I'm talking about tech, and this is about Walden. We're going to get to the analog side in a little bit. I brought a VPN router, and we can get nerdy when that time comes. But basically, I was able to plug in this router into the Airbnb's wireless router, and then I routed all my devices through that. So therefore, our hosts did not get any of my activity. Nerd alert, that was cool. I also have a Plex music server that I had spun up on a Raspberry Pi, that little device that looks like a packet of cards or something like that. My music collection for the 6 weeks was up and running. We didn't have any power outages, which was cool. Delivered via this offline or this online storage thing, so I didn't have to use Apple Music. That's kind of cool. I brought a bunch of books with me, and I read a number of them. I didn't read them all, so therefore I didn't get to check that box off my list. And you know what, folks? That's okay. To wake up when my body wanted to wake up, to have a breakfast that was minimal.
A breakfast of champions.
I think I kind of did a lot of intermittent fasting. I really didn't eat until lunchtime. It was lunch where my wife and I would get together, and she had her time where she would kind of sequester herself in a beautiful bedroom to do reading and journaling and anything else that she wanted to do. I just let my mind wander. What do I want to do? I wrote so many things down on notebooks and pens and things. That was great. And we got together to discuss and talk about things. And then we did an afternoon activity like a hike. And then we'd have dinner and enjoy playing games together, have quiet time in the evenings. What did I learn being in a new area without the regular routine? I definitely learned that my definition of rest often involves my mind. And if I spend a day doing nothing of value, according to some people, like if I'm just reading a digital book, that's okay. And I don't have anyone that I have to report to for a vacation. Like I did this.
Yeah.
I get a badge or I get a cookie.
You're not taking pictures of you for the gram. You're not doing things for the sake of the gram.
Nope. However, I did maintain a quiet blog of our updates because my wife has some friends and colleagues that were very interested in her updates. And so I made some updates about things in our trip because we had family and friends back here in Whatcom County that cared about that. So I did a little bit of tech nerdy work for that. But, one thing that I also learned is if I set out a goal, like I'm going to read 12 books in 6 weeks, that's a good one. Or if I'm going to run 55 miles, which is another good one because I'm a power guy, and it doesn't get accomplished, that's okay. Yeah. It's more of a permission to just allow things to happen, but my mind got rested. That's the main thing. So I don't know how much of a Thoreau-esque experience I had.
Well, I mean, you weren't building a cabin. I'll give you that. But still, It's mentally speaking, like in today's overly connected era and on the heels of a pandemic, I just found it interesting that the trip that you and your wife had planned overseas sounded insanely dope.
Yeah. That would be Instagrammable in many ways.
Right. But still you don't really do the Instagram thing. So it's a moot point. Like whether it was Montana, Japan, or Italy, like the output would have, I still will kind of hang my hat on the fact that your outcome of this would probably have been the same. It's just you probably come back with a little bit more of a language if you went to another locale.
There would have been a different intro to the podcast if I had
Molto
that.
bene.
Exactly.
But no, like with everything that has gone on, it's interesting that you focused on your mentality as the key thing in this vacation set, which, I mean, all of us, and I'm both envious and glad, podcast partner in crime, that you've been able to get that much of a vacation, because yours truly has not.
Well, your time will come.
Yeah.
And one thing that, as you were, you mentioned something about, rebuilding things. I had a mental picture in my mind of like a destroyed brick building. Yeah. Thanks, COVID. That was my inner fortress. And little by little, brick by brick, through rest, reflection, redemption, recuperation, whatever have you, in my mental state, I was able to rebuild that fortress.
And reboot.
I'm
going to do all the re's.
There you go. I like it. And also, just from a family standpoint, my wife and I are able to have, we're able to work on things in Powell Family Incorporated for family matters and other things like that. But when you don't have the work routine or the family obligations or our dog who has obligations and things, when it's just us, it allowed us the opportunity to have these to dive deeper, to take off a couple more onion layers of things, of issues that needed to be addressed when they may not be able to be addressed in the typical daily grind of the routine. That fortified Powell Family Incorporated. We got a whole lot of reinforcements going on our perimeter. Got a whole lot of proximity alerts deactivated, if you would, about the things that we needed to work on, and that was a blessing in itself. Really happy about that. So it was mental, it was emotional, it was relational. Although I did miss the people that I hang out with, your present company included, and I'm little by little. It's not like I wanted to have a party. Let's all go meet at Boundary Bay and catch up.
Oh, that's totally you, Captain Extrovert.
Yeah, that's me. Anyway, I love going to a place where there's just wall to wall people talking loudly. Anyway, one to
crappy
one
acoustics.
Oh man, don't get me started. We like Bellingham. We're proud of Boundary Bay as a local business. God bless them. Anyway, I'm meeting with them one to one to have my connection time when the time comes, and so I'm really enjoying that.
Well, let's flip over. So that was your digital detox, because relatively speaking, that's low tech for a self-proclaimed, technologist of calling.
Dude, I got burned out on technology. It was evident after a year of working from home, of having a screen 8+ hours a day, and you can't disengage from it in your mind, because in my mind and the standards I hold for myself professionally, this stuff wasn't able to be disengaged from. Oh, I hit e-brake on that one, and I changed that. So
let's flip to the analog side of things. Obviously, as your resident analog explorer, one, I want to hear about the utopic heaven of paper and pens that you discovered on your travels. But second, what other analog insights did you bring into this?
I initially brought some journals. I was going to have a journal. I brought a Leuchtturm 1917 that I was going to fill up, because I had these goals in mind of the mental picture of what I should be like. Guess what? I didn't fill up the whole 250-page hardcover 5x8 A5 notebook. However, I am still a fan of Kaweco. That's Kaweco. Kaweco All Sport pens. They're very diminutive, but as you unscrew the cap and place it on the other side, you get a nicely balanced. I got the aluminum steel version of that pen for my writings, and I don't journal prose or iambic pentameter. I'm writing lists. I'm getting stuff out of my brain. I'm baking corned beef hash when others are journaling
filet mignon.
Filet mignon. But I realized, and especially in Bozeman, shout out to Paper and Grace.
That's it.
Oh my goodness. So there's a couple websites that we're not going to mention out here that you can get pens and papers and other things out there. They're great. Do some research. Use your DuckDuckGo. Go for it. But there's a store in Bozeman, and They had everything that I would see online in front of my naked, steaming eyes. It was beautiful. I got a chance to hold these pens and, and feel the Tomo River paper in these notebooks. And it turns out that I was able to find some slim 5x8-ish notebooks that are very svelte. But I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about analog and pen writing with
Smudge.
ink, yep. And that's where the fountain pen life is not going to work for me yet. I'm working on that. Stay tuned in future episodes for that. But I picked up a couple notebooks that were really, I learned I like dot grid. I learned that kind of limitation of lines. I like writing between the lines, and it was great. To take the time in the morning and get all the things that I wanted out of my head, and in the evening get a couple of notes and things like that, instead of finding a digital app to write all my things down. Hi, day one. I choose not to go that route, and so just writing and not really getting the smudgies because the ink that I use dries quickly.
Okay.
It was a great experience, and I had these thought clouds occur, also work related. As my mind is not focused on something, I had a couple ideas in how I can approach when I return and resume my professional life as a technologist. And so I've been able to deploy those and save those for later. So, I'm not really a journaler. I'm a get it out of my head kind of person. And it's scattered, having the first page of a paper collection with the page number and what it is about is a nice guide. The table of contents is really good. Leuchtturm does a great job of having that page. But yeah, that's, analog. I really embraced it. And I found that, I got my Tombos, I got my Lammies, I got my Staedtler. I still want to figure out how to pronounce that name. Staedtler.
Yeah.
It's a grayish pen, the paper, but no, Kaweco's where it's at. But I got one more in the works. And we'll talk about that later because I've been doing some freelance work. So we'll chat about that later. I love the balance that I now have with analog and digital. And as a result, we could talk about this in a later episode. I really made some changes, like some dramatic changes to my personal technology repertoire. Mm-hmm. And as I'm reading technology articles and seeing what's going on and immersing myself when I want to, I kind of went into I'm trying to defang my life.
Defang?
Yes. There's a term, if you look it up, FAANG. FANG are 5 of the top tech groups: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. I don't know why they included Netflix in there, but that's, FANG as opposed to another word you can make out of it. You can't really make a word with Microsoft. FAMG. Anyway, those 6, including Microsoft, I'm trying to limit my connection with.
Fang.
Fang, yes. Hi, Hanson. So anyway, I made a decision, and I'm trying to limit a little bit of my Apple connection.
Sure.
Even though they talk about respecting one's privacy, but that's not what this show's all about. So that was my analog explorations and how I've returned. I have a much different mindset when it comes to reality, life, technology, and I guess one of the things, if I may. I got really upset in predicting how people would act. I was predicting people would respond or make decisions in a certain way, and that got me internally stressed out, kind of like anger and Inside Out. Yeah. And I was able to, in these 6 weeks, condition myself to say, they haven't done that yet. I'm going to wait until that actually happens, and then I'm going to respond accordingly. Until then, I'm not going to let myself get stressed out for that. I don't know if that's stoic residual from what I was listening to from Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic podcast or what. But if it hasn't happened yet, I don't need to invest any kind of stress or worry or anger or angst into it. Wait until it happens, and then I act accordingly.
As my pops would always say, water off a duck's back.
Quack, quack, yo. So anyway, it was a wonderful 6 weeks and to be a great work on how you were discussing the motorcycles and the watch fam and the outdoors and things like that. How was the DGR?
So DGR was good. Sunday was quite overcast, cloudy, and windy. So I kind of trimmed my route that I had originally planned because I posted a video, a 360 video that I did from the last season,
yes,
up on the socials and stuff. gorgeous skies in our late September day that we had, which was a rarity. And then this season, it was like fall crept up on the DGR here in the Northwest and was just like, now we're going to bring back the colder temperatures and stuff. And so, I did a shorter route on the more of the I guess the northern side of town, because I did southern side of town last year. So Alabama, going around Alabama area, coming up to the lake, and then going around the Lakeway area.
Excellent.
So that was my route this year.
Very good. And did you encounter anything different? Because this is like your 4th or 5th year?
Actually, no. This year is like the 6th or 7th year.
Well, where have I been? On vacation. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. It's funny. This year, the dashboard for anybody who rides, they actually now accumulate everything that you've raised and how many years you've ridden. And
Nice.
I've raised like just shy of like $600 for the Movember Foundation.
Awesome.
And all the rides that I've done. So which is really cool.
Where can someone find information? Because you talked about the socials. How can someone snoop in on some of the work you've done with that?
So every year DGR has a portal. I'll have a link in the show notes because they changed it. It's like a short code of like GFolk/Barce or something like that. It's like Gentry Folk. I don't remember what my URL is this year.
All right.
Because it's different than I've done in the past ones. But
I caught you off guard, but you'll put a link for people to click on.
Yeah, there will be a link. We'll have a little bit of show notes then.
Yes.
There we go. So I'll provide that. But so yeah, that's what I did this last weekend.
Cool. Sounds great. And as far as what's coming up, I've talked mainly on this episode. What's been going on for you? What do we have coming up for AJ Barce, photographer and geek at large?
Well, so like I said, I need a vacation. Just ask my wife. I need a vacation. No, so there's been a few. If listeners, if they've gone to my blog, there was a post that I wrote kind of midway in the pandemic about being a Pacific Northwest dad and some of the adventures, what I call adventure school with my son, and some of the tools, both analog and digital, like the Seek app, and to bring in, whether you have a little one or not, just understanding the flora and fauna and the nature that we live in here in the Pacific Northwest. So this is season 2 for me and my son. So we also this weekend just came back from the North Cascades, and we did the what's called the Boulder River. There's a huge gargantuan waterfall. These twin, locals here might know the Racehorse Falls. Take that and then I don't know, quintuple the height. And make it split with 2 different falls. It is enormous. I'll show you a picture after the show, but that's on my Instagram right now and stuff. And so season 2 of Adventure School is going on with me and my son.
Excellent.
So, but
I would imagine with the 5X incline, your kiddo slept well that night.
You would think, but no, he didn't. I was surprised, actually.
Well, I'm curious. On that hike that you did at Adventure School with your kiddo, did he bring a fork along with him?
A spork.
A spork?
We're minimalists.
Maybe we should stick a spork in this episode.
That wraps it up for this almost Walden's pond-like edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to get this podcast. Remember, if you're in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
Yeah, they're great. Oh, no, that's why. Yeah, they are streaming all over the world and community-powered KMRE.org. I'll work on the shtick that I had before to make it cleaner. But yeah, I remember talking about that at the end of the show. KMRE, they're a good station. They play our episodes like Saturdays at 3. Yeah, that's what I was supposed to say, right?
Right.
It's all coming back.
And then you say things like I say things like from 9822. No, just sorry. From the City of Sailor Sea, I'm AJ Barce.
Yeah, that's really cool when you say that. Oh, yeah. And then I say, I'm Chris Powell. Thanks once again for joining us on the Bellingham Podcast. I know I'm going to get the hang of this again. It was like you take this time away from the mic, you start to lose some brain cells and replace it with other things.
That's okay. I'll hold cue cards up. This is what you say. This is what you say next. Here you go.
Say goodnight, Gracie. Okay.
Good night, Gracie.
Just want to enjoy your time. Are you done? Are you done? Okay, I'm going to continue talking now.
Cuddle. Go cuddle.
Yes. I knew that was coming. It's like a volcano.
Yeah,
like,
it's just...